Hi everyone, thanks for watching this week's Surveya Online video podcast. We're continuing with a three-part series on clarity is key, learning about the clarity list. Last week in part one, we talked about the reasons, rationalizations, and excuses so many of us use to justify an immediate desire, and contrasted those with the thoughts and regrets that we have afterwards. Now those two lines of thinking are diametrically opposed. Now, the afterthought is the objective reality, while the forethought is the subjective justification. So like we learned last week, our goal is to maintain the clarity of the afterthought at the time of the forethought. And the tool to accomplish that is called the clarity list. So today in part two, it's always be prepared. So two distinct memories I have of my wonderful cousin Sylvia of blessed memory were her collection of hundreds of miniature porcelain turtles she had all around her apartment. And the second one was the tightly folded tissue that she always had neatly tucked inside the cuff of her sweater, ready at any moment to be unleashed from under her right wrist, because you never know when you might need to suddenly blow your nose. So the clarity list should be just as accessible. And I'm not exaggerating. So the clarity list catalogs the consequences, both physically and emotionally, resulting from our unhealthy eating habits. So when we're writing out this list, we want to be thorough and exhaustive. We don't want to hold anything back. And we want to exercise the same diligence on the benefits side. What are the positive effects of having a healthy and wholesome relationship with food? Now, they can either be the inverse of many of the consequences or independent values as well. So it's important to treat this as a working document, meaning be ready and willing to add entries to either side as the ideas come to mind. So at the same time, don't make it too complicated. No prose required. Just a concise yet comprehensive list of key words or phrases that will generate sudden sobriety, or even more importantly, will serve as secure investments in your clarity account and honesty holdings, because you never know when you might need to make a withdrawal. Because we want to focus on the flu shot. Utilizing this key as a flu shot is much more effective and impactful than merely trying to rely on it as an antibiotic. And for the sake of clarity and full disclosure, which is very apropos for this idea, this following comparison is not meant in any way to condone or condemn flu shots or antibiotics or render any type of medical advice. It's simply, here to what I believe is a very poignant illustration of this idea. So give an example. This guy Stephen has been sick for a while and he doesn't seem to be getting any better. So he finally goes to the doctor, who diagnoses him with a bacterial infection and prescribes antibiotics to facilitate his healing. Now that seems like a reasonable course of action. So Stephen is already symptomatic and is taking medicine to help him get better. Sandra, on the other hand, goes to the pharmacy with her little niece Susan to get a flu shot. As the pharmacist sticks the needle in her arm, Susan looks up at her aunt and asks, "You're not sick. Why is he giving you medicine?" It's a great question. So Sandra answers, "You're right, Susan. I feel great now. But in a few weeks, there will be a lot of germs in the air, and it will be easier for someone to get sick. So I'm taking this medicine today to help protect my body from the viruses that will probably be around beginning next month." So what's the main difference between the two? Stephen is already symptomatic and is being reactive. Sandra is not yet symptomatic and being proactive to help prevent the problem in the first place. Once we are triggered with a craving, it's much harder to first start building up our emotional immune system on the spot when already confronted with the cheesecake. Bearing any previous preparations, now we certainly want to try and reach for the raft of reason and rationality when we fear falling overboard, but our sea legs are already wobbly and our balance is less than stable. It's like trying to affix the storm shutters to our windows when the winds have already reached gale-force strength. It's usually a losing battle. We need to take our flu shots before we're compromised. we need to go to Home Depot, get our boards and nails, and put up the shutters while it's still sunny out. The calm before the storm is when the successful preparations take place. So when does that translate for us? Usually right after finishing the meal on our Surveya food plan. We're satisfied, satiated, and content in the knowledge that we robustly nourished ourselves and have sufficient fuel in our body to energize us until our next meal. We feel fine and we're asymptomatic, like Sandra, which is the ideal time to make a deposit in our clarity account and reinforce our honesty holdings. Because the next few hours might be smooth sailing under a bright blue sky in our continuing journey of healthy eating, or an unexpected emotional weather front may rapidly rear its head in our radar screen, which sometimes isn't so unforeseen after all. But with the clarity list in hand as our pocket umbrella, just because it's raining doesn't mean we have to get wet. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for the conclusion of our 3-part series. Have a great week.